Good morning. It is Sunday, December the 19th, 2021, and the title of the message today is Sheep, Shepherds, and a Savior. We'll be looking specifically at John chapter 10, verses 11 through 18. We're actually going to be having our children's Christmas program as the main part of our worship service, and this message is intended to go along with it. As part of that program, the children were going to be talking about several simple but very important truths. The first being that sheep need a shepherd. Second, a savior, the Messiah, has come into the world. Third, his name is Jesus. And fourth, we need to tell others about him. In addition to what the children would have to share, I also would like to add a little bit more about sheep, shepherds, and the Savior this morning. First, let's talk about sheep. Here are some important things to know about sheep. Sheep are vulnerable to their enemies. They are prone to wander, and they are dependent on their shepherd. It is also highly likely that sheep pay little attention to their shepherd most of the time. They go on about their lives, doing what they want to do, going where they want to go, oblivious to the surrounding perils. They pay little attention to their shepherd until they feel the pull of his staff to protect them from danger. In many ways, we share the same characteristics of sheep. Isaiah chapter 53, verse 6 describes each of us in this way. We all went astray like sheep. We all have turned to our own way. We, like sheep, are vulnerable. We wander, and we are dependent on our shepherd. Next, let's consider shepherds. Listen to Jesus' words as recorded in John chapter 10, beginning in verse 11. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. The hired hand, since he is not the shepherd and doesn't own the sheep, leaves them and runs away when he sees a wolf coming. The wolf then snatches and scatters them. Then in verse 13, this happens because he is a hired hand and doesn't care about the sheep. There are two kinds of shepherds, those who own and care for their sheep and those who don't. The owner shepherd thinks of his sheep as his children, and he cares for and protects them as such. The hired shepherd doesn't see the sheep in the same way. They are just animals to him and nothing more. When danger arises, the hired shepherd thinks of himself rather than the sheep. But the owner shepherd protects his sheep regardless of the danger. If we continue to read in John chapter 10 with verse 14, we'll learn more about what Jesus has to say about himself as the good shepherd. It says in verse 14, I am the good shepherd. I know my own, and my own know me. Just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father, I lay down my life for the sheep. But I have other sheep that are not from this sheep pen. I must bring them also, and they will listen to my voice. Then there will be one flock, one shepherd. Continuing in verse 17, this is why the Father loves me, because I lay down my life so that I may take it up again. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down on my own. I have the right to lay it down, and I have the right to take it up again. I have received this command from my Father. Jesus, the Good Shepherd, laid down his life, and he picked it up again through his resurrection for each of us. Finally, let's think about our Savior. It is hard for us to think of ourselves as sheep in need of a shepherd, let alone lost sinners in need of a Savior. But Jesus Christ knows us and our needs better than we know them ourselves. We're often guilty of placing more faith and trust in hired hands, in people, than we do in our Savior when it comes to our everyday lives. But that is a mistake. We're vulnerable, and there are those who would do us harm in this world. Like sheep, we are most in danger when we wander away from the presence and the protection of our Savior. If you know Christ as Savior, then embrace Him as your shepherd as well. Seek to grow closer to Him and to listen more closely to His guiding voice. And finally, if you don't know Him as Savior or Shepherd, there is no better time than the season in which we celebrate His birth to make that decision. God bless you this week, and Merry Christmas.